Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides. This is Huck TV. Yes, she's the boss. She's the boss. It's her channel. Yeah, there she is. She's telling you. She's pretty uppity tonight. She says, Dad, I don't even feel like being in here with you, but I'm going to be for you and my fans. Am I right? Look at that look. Hey, we were just outside playing, and I said we had to come in and go to work. You didn't want to come in, did you? You just want to go out and play. I know you're a good girl. Yeah, we'll go out and play later, okay? We gotta do this for the fans. She says, okay, if you say so, Dad. Away we go. So, this is a missing person segment. And here we're going to talk about missing people. Over my years of discussing the missing, we've had all kinds of missing. In water, in planes, in boats, in airships. How about in cars? We haven't talked much about people who disappear from a car. Well, we have talked a little bit about people missing after a car crash. And that kind of intrigues me. I'll tell you why. Because in many of the instances, people don't have any injuries. And I know it's easy for the mind to go, okay, they're disappearing from the car crash because their mind is blurred, they're not coherent, and they walk away. Except, too many times they call somebody and they say, hey, I just got in a crash, could you come pick me up, blah, blah, blah. And the person on the other end says, yeah, sure, I'll come pick you up. But are you hurt, or do you need an ambulance or something? No, I'm fine. Well, I would say under those circumstances, something weird is going on. Because there's no reason not to show up after a crash the next day. And what I mean by that, I can understand you not wanting to be around when the police come if you're under the influence. But the next day, police aren't going to arrest you for being under the influence because you're not going to be the next day. So I really don't understand why people would totally disappear and not communicate with relatives, etc. Today I'm going to talk to you about two cases, car crashes and missing people. And both of them are very different, but very confusing. First case involves a woman named Tanya Shannon, 40 years old, missing December 5th, 2010. Now, the accident happened in a place called Brookfield Township in Illinois. It was an accident scene. Hadn't been reported. Out in the middle of the farm fields of nowhere, Illinois. She was married to a man named Dale. They were married for 20 years. Dale was 41, and they had 4 daughters, ages 4 to 15. Let me ask you, when you place your comments on this video, be thoughtful. Those daughters are of age right now where they may clue in and watch. Please don't put them to crying for saying some outlandish thing that happened to this case. Be thoughtful. Now, news articles at the time said Tanya was a part-time waitress, and they had a home in Ransom, Illinois. Here's the way the story goes. On December 4th, the night of, Tanya and Dale attend a holiday party at the Knights of the Columbus in Streator, Illinois. Tanya was dressed up very nice. Long ballroom type gown, high heels. Friends stated that night the couple were cutting up the dance floor, dancing, having fun, holding hands. For 20 years, they were in love. Well, early the next morning, the party starts breaking up, and they had friends and relatives there, and Tanya and Dale leave in their car. Dale driving. Now, it was snowing outside. There was a pretty good storm going on. But both of these people had lived in Illinois and around snow for a majority of their life. So they knew how to drive in the snow. It wasn't a big deal. Well, they leave the party. It's about 30 minutes back to their home from where the party was located. Dale was driving. At 1:45 that morning, a LaSalle County deputy on routine patrol, driving through heavy snow, comes across an accident, a single vehicle accident, where a vehicle backed into, lost control, spun out, and spun into a pole with its rear end. It was the Shannons. It was obvious to the deputy that the roads were icy. Dale lost control, spun the car, and at speed backed into a pole, destroyed the car, and he was in the driver's seat, deceased. There was nobody in the passenger seat. Deputy starts looking around. In the driver's seat, or on the passenger seat, on the floorboard, are 2 high heel shoes. He starts looking around, and just outside the passenger door, there's a few steps, and there's one slipper on the ground where there should have been a foot step. And as it was snowing, he slowly started to lose track of where those steps were going, but they were in the direction of a farm field. In that area, there were just farm fields and the road. Well, deputy thought it was odd. Calls for backup units. And he searches the area, calls for medical assistance, calls for a coroner, calls for an accident team, turns on his lights and siren, uses his PA system, trying to let whoever the passenger was, he didn't know at that time, it was Tanya, that he was right here and they should come back. Later on that day, searchers converged on this area. They couldn't find her. The deputies in charge of the search said that they were convinced that she didn't get a ride out of the area. She was somewhere in that field. So 50 searchers, canines, helicopters, ATVs, equestrians, all searched that next day. And they said that they brought in the helicopters to blow the snow away so they could see what was on the ground. They couldn't follow the tracks because of the snow. Very confusing scene. Well, they focused on a 2-mile radius from the car that first day. And they used deputies with poles. Anytime they saw a small mound, they would poke the mound to make sure that they were hitting dirt. They knew Tanya was wearing a bright red dress. It would be easy to see. The next day, they keep searching. Same amount of deputies, helicopter, they added a plane, and they start pushing the radius out further because they're covering everything within 2 miles. They're not finding anything. They noticed she walked this way off that side of the road. She wasn't coming back, and they were searching. They were a little confused why she would walk into a field with no houses, no nothing. So for 3 days they did this. They found nothing, and they gave up the search. Sheriff Tom Templeton stated that in his 12 years as a sheriff, he's never seen anything like this. He says there's only frozen fields out there and mounds of snow. We're all prodded with poles, and we found nothing. Sheriff said if Tanya was up and able to move, why didn't she contact her friends or her family? They found her phone in the car. He was baffled. Days later, after Dale's body went to the coroner came back and stated that his blood alcohol level was 0.266. Friends, 0.08 is the legal limit for driving under the influence. Dale was more than 3 times that limit. He was very drunk. January 3rd, 2011. Now, this disappearance occurred December 5th, 2010. January 3rd, LaSalle County decides to go out one more time when the snow had dissipated in that field. They thought they'd give it one more shot to see what they could find. Well, they sent a helicopter up into that same field, started to move out from the accident scene, and 3/4 of a mile from the accident scene, they see a red dress in the field. They send searchers in. It was Tanya. She was wearing no shoes, no slippers. The other slipper she had was gone. They never found it. Body was recovered, sent to the coroner. Now, the coroner stated that Tanya died of hypothermia. And they said that she had minor bruising from the accident, nothing serious caused by the accident. And the cause of death wasn't anything related to the accident. It was hypothermia. So I want you to be rational. Don't bring things in that aren't true. Oh, she was incoherent because... No, don't say that. Why would Tanya walk into oblivion in a farm field when the road was right there that she was on? Anyone, even a first-year driver, would know safety is on the road with your car because that's where help's going to come, not out there in that field. The coroner stated she had no head trauma. Remember that. The second slipper never found. Why choose to walk in bare feet in the snow? Okay, you got high heels, but why come out of your slipper? Why not get that slipper and put it back on? Unless she was in a rush, she was scared. I don't know. Why leave behind your phone? Why not try to make a call? There was no mention that there was no cell service there in any of the articles I read. The coroner came back and said Tanya's blood alcohol level was 0.05, well below the legal limit. She was not drunk. She was rational. She could have made rational decisions, but everything she did was irrational. Why walk into that field in bare feet that led to nowhere but bad news? It's $1 million question. But how many times have we talked about these accidents where something happens that makes no sense at all? And people aren't injured to the point where they can't think. So this is Tanya and Dale at the party. At that party. That's what she was wearing. Happy couple, married 20 years. This is Tanya at their table at the party, having fun, which is what life's about. Now, this is where the accident was. I want you to look at this. Water, the only water really in the area. Right there. This is where they lived. Wide open areas, farmland, LaSalle Lake State Fish and Wildlife Area, a real wild area. Friends, I've got to say, one of the weirdest cases I've heard of in a long time. You can't convince me that something else wasn't going on. I don't know what. But initially, those searchers had canines in there. They should have found her. And they brought in those helicopters the first few days to blow the new snow away. Why wasn't she seen? I'm going to bet my bottom dollar that if you ask the searchers that were there that first couple days, they're completely without words. The sheriff was. He couldn't believe it. How many times have we gone through this? Too many. Next case. Equally bizarre case. Different altogether. Involves a man named Lesnar Velasquez Cardenas. 21 years old. This is the man. This is a very, very recent case, folks. He's a resident of Redding, California, 21 years old. May 29th of 2025. He was driving his vehicle on Oak Run Road, rolled it over, was basically uninjured and called the CHP, and then left the scene. This was in the AM hours, not late at night, just in the morning. CHP arrived, car's wrecked, he's gone, they try calling him, he doesn't answer. Somehow or another, out in this rural area, he gets someone to pick him up and give him a ride to his apartment, which is in Redding. Redding is in the San Joaquin Valley. It's generally a pretty nice city. Sacramento River is nearby. Shasta Dam isn't far away. Mount Shasta is about an hour drive north. It's a beautiful area. Been to it probably 100 times. Well, at 2:30 that same day, a local cab gets a call to meet a fare near the Wells Fargo, about 2 miles from Lesnar's apartment. Person gives the name, Lesnar Cardenas, I need a ride. Cab arrives, and the man says, I need a ride for about an hour, hour and a half north to Mount Shasta. An expensive fare, to say the least, and the cab driver's a little leery. So he confirms the identity, sees the guy's ID, quotes him a price and says, you got to show me the money if I'm going to give you this ride. Shows him the money. He had it. It had just been to Wells Fargo. And Lesnar said he wanted to ride to Mount Shasta, 65 miles north. Well, the cab driver had confirmed his identity, knew he had the money, said, okay, I'll give you the ride. So he drives him north, up to Mount Shasta, through Mount Shasta City. Friends, I know this area way, way, way too well. I made a movie called Vanished. And much of Vanished was centered on this area. And you can watch it on Amazon. I don't own it. The History Channel does. I think they charge you $2 to watch it. There's some fantastic scenery there. Well, we climbed Mount Shasta in the movie, and you could see it. Some incredible scenery. Videographers did a great job. Well, Lesnar directs the cab driver to a place called Avalanche Gulch. Been there. Hiked it. Kind of one of the main drop points if you want to climb Shasta. Well, the cab driver asks him, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I've got to beat a guy's time on the trail." The cab driver didn't quite know what that meant, but he says, "Okay." And Lesnar had a big backpack with him, kind of like he knew what he was doing. And he dropped him off. He also had a cell phone with him. Cab driver turned around, drove back to Reading. Didn't think anything of it. There's a lot of extravagant people that do things like this. May 31st, 2 days later, Lesnar is reported missing to the Reading Police Department. So, this is Reading down here. This is Interstate 5. This is Shasta Dam right in here. Beautiful place. Beautiful. Go north, Mount Shasta. Now, the reason I was doing the show on Mount Shasta for the History Channel was because there had been several strange disappearances on Mount Shasta. Why am I talking about Lesnar? Because he's another one that went missing on Mount Shasta. Now to what happened. Lesnar's reported missing. Reading PD decides that they're going to take the case. They're not going to pawn it off to Siskiyou County because through their investigation, it was a good one. They did a good job. They figured out that the last place anybody saw him was Avalanche Gulch on Mount Shasta. Well, Reading ran his phone, and they found out that the last time the phone was operating was at about the time the cab dropped him off on the side of Shasta. 6 days later, Reading PD and Siskiyou County sheriffs and the California Highway Patrol all worked together to start a search on Mount Shasta. Now, on the scale of danger, I would say Mount Shasta is, like if 10 is the most dangerous climb of a 14,000 foot mountain, and 5 is like not real dangerous, not real bad, I would put Mount Shasta at like a 4. It can be very dangerous, but it doesn't have crevasses and a lot of things that you would associate with dangerous high peaks. Now, would I tell anybody to climb that mountain alone who's never done it before? Heck no. Never, ever, never, ever, never. So, Lesnar going on it alone is baffling. So, Siskiyou County and the Highway Patrol helicopters have FLIR, so they're looking on the mountain for anything that has heat. They're looking for people that are moving. Siskiyou County puts searchers on the mountain, and they're interviewing people coming down, and they're trying to figure out if anyone's seen Lesnar. They have his photo. They're showing it to people. Have you seen this guy? Have you seen this guy? Nothing. Well, CHP flew the skies for 2 days, and they were looking for anybody alone, solo, in bad place on the mountain like you fell. Nothing. Nothing. In the end, they gave up the search. Now, nothing's been going on this for about 2 weeks. Shasta, from Avalanche Gulch to the top, above tree line, there's really nothing up there that you could hide under. And I'm sure the searchers did this. You can check geographical earthquake movement on the mountain to see if there's been a rock slide or something. They had said nothing. Very little information is out there about Lesnar. Everything I could find I just gave to you. So what happened to him? Couple of guesses. Possibly still on that mountain somewhere. Maybe he crawled in between some boulders, trying to find some heat. Boulders moved, crushed him. Maybe he made it down the mountain into Mount Shasta City and wanted to disappear voluntarily. Maybe he made it down the mountain, got a ride, and something evil happened. Those are probably my three best guesses. Without knowing his history, his family situation, his mental status, very hard to know. But it's very hard to take your life on Mount Shasta and not be found. Because every place that you say you wanted to jump or something, you're going to be found. Especially by a helicopter flying around. I took a helicopter from, say, 4,000 feet. And they took the doors off the helicopter. And I'm sitting right on the outside, triple strapped in, looking out the side. So when we were down on the ground, it was like 105. It was super hot. We get up to 12,000 feet and we're flying around. It's like 45 degrees. My right arm was freezing. But the point being that we went up there just to look at what the topography and the ground would look like from the skies if we were searching for someone. It's in the movie. And it's so blatantly obvious that you would see anybody. It's ridiculous. In fact, the route we took over the forest canopy into the mountain area, we were looking for deer, elk, bear, because through those trees you could see a lot. It was quite breathtaking, actually. Now, the helicopter pilot we had, he flew us up there, and he got pretty close to the mountain, and I'm thinking, we're pretty close, buddy. Why don't you just back it off a little? But we had a couple of cameramen, and we had a couple other people who were with the person that the segment was about. And it was actually a pretty sad trip because the guy who was sitting next to me had lost a friend there. Never found to this day. Don't know where he is. The search commander on that incident told me, and I said it in the segment, Dave, I put searchers at the top of that mountain with Cobra helicopters at 14,000 feet. They lowered them on the top, on the summit. Searchers got out, and they covered the mountain like a spider web. He said, Dave, he's not on that mountain. I don't care what anybody says. He's not on the mountain. This is a searcher who had been running search operations in California for 30 years. The guy's name was Grizz Adams. A gnarly guy. If I was ever lost, I'd want him searching for me. But he said, Dave, he's not on the mountain. He may be in the mountain, he's not on it, or he's up there, but he's not on it. And I quoted that. He was completely serious. Now, Mount Shasta has an interesting history. There's been books written about the inside of Shasta and the supposed people that live inside of it. I'm not saying it's true. It's a fascinating story that goes back 100 years. But there's been all kinds of things about Shasta over the years that are very, very odd. UFOs seen around Shasta regularly. The area around the base of the mountain, tons of Bigfoot sightings. Siskiyou County itself, tons of missing people. I've written about many, many of them. So yeah, intrigue, 100%. But when I saw that Lesnar disappeared after almost rushing to the mountain, why? What's the need to drop everything and take a cab right then and there to the mountain after you just rolled your car? I just find it fascinating and odd. Now, the way I want you to start looking at these cases. In missing 411, a sobering coincidence, the common denominator is men under 38, 37, athletic, had been drinking. There it is right there. That's the profile. In these accidents, can't really give it a profile. The common denominator, people are missing in remote areas. No witnesses. No witnesses. Point of separation, really. So if there's no witnesses around, maybe somebody knows. I don't know. But the cases are too spread out to be done by any one person, organization. Because what are you going to do? You're going to follow somebody around until they crash? That's ridiculous. So how would anything know that you were crashed? But something to it. And I'm going to keep looking at it. I think Lesnar hopefully will be found okay, but who knows? On Tanya Shannon's case, I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me that that was all normal. Remember, the profile, missing clothing, missing shoes. Tanya, missing shoes. Separation from phone in a lot of these cases. Why? Why? In Lesnar's case, the phone stopped working when he started climbing. I've been on the mountain. My phone worked the majority of the time it was on the mountain. So why shut it down? Or why make it inoperative? I'm just saying, folks. Now, kindness. Doesn't cost anything to be kind. And we all need to step it up in these times of turmoil in our world. I don't care what side of the fence you're on. You can be nice, understanding, patient. We need it. Now, at the end of June, I'll be at Tim Alberino's conference in Bozeman, Montana. Tim Alberino, Alberino, in Bozeman. Be a great conference. I'm also going to be at Phenomicon in Utah. Phenomicon in Utah in September. And then I'm going to be on November 9th through the 16th, Symphony of the Seas. If you go to Gather Up is one word, Gather Up Events. Just Google it, and you'll find the Bigfoot Cruise. Oh, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be really good, trust me. And a Caribbean Bigfoot Cruise. Yeah. And then we're also going to take a trip before the cruise even starts. We're going to get there a day early, and we're going to go to Coral Castle. And that, to me, is a fascinating place. And you will see why when we get there. You're going to want to take that trip. It's going to be a lot of fun. In the meantime, kindness. Be polite. Be friendly. Thank you for being here. HUCK is just now waking up from her nap and stretching. Big stretch. Relax. Now leave me alone, Dad. I want to sleep some more. Paulides out.